In this session, we're going to look at using global and local variables. We'll be using a project from a previous session, and to begin with, just to give you an overview, this project is basically designed to have two buttons. So you click on the first button, take you to frame 5, and then click on the button on frame 5, take you to frame 1. But first of all, we're going to have a look at global and local variables. Now, global variables reside in the main timeline or in the root of the program. It's not contained within inside a function. A variable that is declared inside a function is known as local. A variable that's declared outside of a function in the main body of the code is known as global. What it means is a global variable can actually be seen inside a function, but a function variable can't be seen outside in a global area. So let's have a look at how this works. Let's start by declaring a variable. So first of all, I'm going to start with A, and I'm going to put S and message, and it's going to be a type string. So this is going to contain char. So even if I put a number in here, it'll actually contain, it will convert that to char. So then what I want to do is actually assign something to this variable. So S message, S standing for string. So the message is going to be equal to quote, this is a global message, end quote, semicolon. Okay, so let's just run this at the moment and make sure it's working okay, which it is, there's no errors. And all I've done at the moment is actually just assign that, open a memory area, assign a bit of text to that memory area. I suppose we should see it as well. So let's trace out S message. So we'll just copy this down and trace out the contents of that. So let's run the program now. You can actually see it's actually traced out. This is a global message. So what we need to look at is say, well, if this is global, that means I can actually see this inside of a function. So what I'm going to do at the moment is I'm just going to turn off the goto statement so we don't leave this page. And I'll turn off this trace statement here. And I'm going to add a new one in here. So I'm just going to press enter a couple of times. I'll move this back up one line. And what I want to be able to do is repeat this message. So I'm going to repeat this message inside the function. So when I click on this button, it'll call this function and also tell the message. So next time in my output window, I'll actually see another line occur. So let's run this. So we can see the first one, which is for the main timeline. Now every time I click this button, it should actually write the line again. There you go. You can actually see that this is occurring. So that's working all right. Now, just to give you an idea of what concatenation is, I can actually put a message in there inside the function, space, quote, and then if I use the plus sign, I can actually put this in front of that message. So what I'm going to do is put a little dash in there. So this is concatenation where I've got two objects together in the one output. So you can see the original one. This is a global message. When I click go to frame 5, you see there's inside the function the dash, and then I had a plus sign which joins two objects together, and then it gives me the message again. So if I wanted to actually have numbers and things like that, I could actually add them together. I can also add, say, a formula, 2 plus 2, and output that as well. Let's have a look at this one now. Still got a window open at the moment. Let's close that. Let's run this again. And you can see that the 4 has appeared on the end here, which is 2 plus 2. So you can actually see that I can join it. If I want the 4 to be away from that, I actually need to join in a space like that. So I've actually added a space in there. So now when the program runs, you can see that the 4 is sitting away from the message. So that's a handy little trick. So that allows you to concatenate, so you can actually write sentences. Sometimes you've got to join multiple variables like first name, last name together to make the full name. So it's a handy way of doing that. So at the moment, we can actually see that the global variable is working inside of a function. Now also, if I wanted to, I could actually trace this message out on frame 5. So what I'm going to do is head to frame 5. When I enter in frame 5, after I am on frame 5, I want to trace the message out. So I need to actually copy this little line of code here underneath this trace statement and take out the comment tags. If I don't do that, it won't action this trace statement. So if I had it up here and had go to and stop frame 5, when it comes into the function, it'll actually go to frame 5 and never execute that line of code. So you've got to make sure when you're leaving and going to another frame that it's at the bottom and you've executed all the lines of code you need before you leave. So let's have a look at this running now. So we see our first message. When I click on this, it should execute the line of code, then take us to the second frame, tell us we're on the second frame, on frame 5, and then give us the message again. There we go, inside the function. This is the global with the 4. Then I am on frame 5, and then this is a global message. So you can actually see that not only is a global variable seen on one stage here, but when I head to frame 5, we can actually also see that I can access that global variable. So global variables can be seen right throughout the project. So let's have a look at local variables. Now, local variable, I said before, is located within inside a function. So I'm going to use the same function here. And what I'm going to do is declare some local variables. So I'm just going to declare var s name as of type string. Now, s name can be equal to Marsden. I'll put that in quotes so it knows it's text and not a variable. And then what I want to do is trace it. Okay, so it should actually show Marsden. So it should actually run this message, show Marsden. When I click the button, show Marsden, trace out the full message, go to frame 5 and show us that. So, but we should see Marsden in before this line here. So let's see if that's working. Okay, no errors. When I click go to, there we go, we can see Marsden in there. So that's local to that function. If I try to trace that outside of this function, so after it's declared, so even right down the bottom here, if I use the trace s name, we should get an error. Now we've got an error because it says here access to undefined property s name. And the main reason why it doesn't know it is because it hasn't actually actioned this function, because the event listener hasn't been triggered. So it doesn't know it exists on the main timeline. Now, main timeline will execute all the code it can that's residing outside of functions. So when we enter the frame, it actually starts from the top and works its way down and also triggers the event listeners. So we can't see s name there. So let's cut this out of here and let's go to frame 5 and say, well, maybe you can see it inside here. So let's have a look when we enter the frame 5, because we would have clicked the button. Well, it doesn't work, because even though we would have clicked the button and the variable would have been declared, when the program's compiled, it's waiting for the execution of the event trigger, and it knows what to do with the event trigger. But the problem is when it's compiling frame 5, it's got a variable s name that, because it hasn't been executed on frame 1, doesn't know it exists. So we can't use it there. So what happens if it's inside another function? So say inside the return one here. Well, once again, when we run it, it's not global, it is a local variable, and you can't see it. So therefore we can't use it in this function either. So local variables can only be used in the same variable. Now in Flash as well, you can't, even though this variable is local, if I come out here and declare it again, so let's just pop in here, working, going to frame 1, and we'll go change this to Marsden to Leon Marsden, and we run it here, it's working okay. We click go, we can see Marsden and everything there. Now go to frame 1, when I click it again, it's got Leon Marsden. Now notice we've actually used the same variable name that is here. So we've actually declared it again and used it again with a different context. Now the reason for this is localized to this function, and therefore I can use it within inside this function. And that's why with for do loops I can use I to drive the for do loops in multiple different functions, but I can't use I twice because otherwise it will overwrite itself. So variables that are built within functions are local to that. If there is only one frame to your project, then any variable that's outside of a function is known as global and can be seen within inside the functions, and therefore I can have multiple functions with multiple variables that are independent of each other. So I hope this helps you understand the difference between global variables and local variables.